Hey guys, I wanted to give you all a bit of an update of what was going on with me last week, but I had to wait to get the blood work back so that way I can be sure as to what exactly was going on. But let me just tell you this, lessons was learned, so stay with me. Hey guys, my name is Susan and welcome to my channel. If you are new here, I have been living a ketogenic lifestyle for the past year and a half. You can catch up on my health journey by watching some of my other videos, which I'll have somewhere on the screen at the end of this one. All right, guys, so this is what was going on. Last week, in fact, last Monday, I posted a video about the real reality of that some type 2s could actually be LOTA. In that video, I also reveal that I'm actually at a high risk of being one of those because my dad was type 1. And how that's always in the back of my mind. I also stated in that video that I was not currently presenting any signs of that. I was just always concerned about it. Well, that morning, that Monday morning, I had took my blood sugar and it was 92. And it gave me a pause for a second because my morning blood sugars are usually between 75 and 85. I do see it in the low 90s when it's my time of the month, but last week was not my time of the month, which is why I paused for a second. I was like, 92. That's kind of high for me. But I shrugged it off because, there are other factors that come into play in why your blood sugar might be elevated. So I didn't think much more about that. The next morning, on Tuesday morning, I actually had a hard time sleeping. I woke up in the middle of the night. I was really hot. And once I wake up, I typically cannot go back to sleep. And it was somewhere between 3:30 in the morning. And so I go into the living room and I thought to myself, well, let me just check my blood sugar. Yesterday was 92. Let's see it, make sure it's back to normal, which I was expecting it would be. But guys, it wasn't. My morning blood sugar at that point was 101. Guys, that's pre-diabetic range. And I start to panic a little bit. You got to understand, I have not seen my blood sugar over 100, even after a meal, in over a year. So that was the first time I've seen it. And it's 101, so it's not like a whole lot over 100, but still, I don't like seeing that. I'm like, what is going on? Now, I know that when you don't sleep very well, it can cause your blood sugar to rise a little bit. But I've not slept well before and never seen my blood sugar go up past 100. So I'm not convinced that that's the only problem here. And so a couple hours pass and I go lay back down, try to get some sleep. And I sleep for a couple of hours. I get up and I check my blood sugar again, and it's 93. And I thought, well, at least it came down some, but that's too much. Now, guys, I usually don't eat till the afternoon. If I get hungry, it's not until later in the afternoon. But at this point, it's noon. And I'm like, well, let me just see what my blood sugar is doing. Because now I'm getting a little, nervous, anxious. I'm starting to test pretty regularly. I want to see what's going on. And I take it, and I imagine I'm not 8. And my blood sugar then was 102. And I'm like, holy crap, it came up. What is going on? And at this point, I've already decided I'm not eating today. My blood sugar is already over 100. I don't want to eat. And I will tell you this, that's not an entirely healthy way to think. We have to eat, guys, okay? But that was my mindset. I wasn't eating that day. And I don't know if it was just because of the anxiousness in me that made me not be hungry, but I wasn't hungry anyways. So I didn't eat that day. And I checked my blood sugar probably about 6 or 7 that night, and it was still 102. It hadn't even come down. And at this point, I'm starting to actually think, oh my gosh, am I becoming a LOTA? I just made a video the day before saying I wasn't presenting any symptoms, but here I am, And so I'm getting pretty upset. And then I'm having to tell myself, okay, Susan, stop worrying about this. Because, stress is going to raise your blood sugar. That's not going to help anything, right? So I lay down that night and again, I don't sleep well. And I woke up somewhere around 4:30. And I'm burning up again. And so I get up. I'm like, I don't really want to check my blood sugar, but I need to. And so I check it. And it said 84, which made me excited. I'm like, okay, 84. So something was going on, threw my body out of whack a little bit. You know, I'm happy with this. And after a couple hours, I went and lay back down, took a nap, got up, and I was like, let me just check my blood sugar one, again, just to make sure it's all good. And I check it and it's 93. And I'm like, what the world? Why is it up? Again, I haven't, and remember, guys, at this point, I haven't ate since Monday and it's Wednesday morning now. And so here comes noon. And at noon, I'm around the 45-hour mark since I've last ate. And I take my blood sugar. And usually when I do a 2-day fast, my blood sugar is in the low 70s. It's really good, right? Mm-mm. The blood sugar was 107. 107, guys. And at this point, I am so depressed. And guys, there's a fault with me about this. When I get depressed, scared, and full of anxiety, it's almost like I get paralyzed. Sure, I can still move my limbs and everything, but I don't want to do anything. And so I just laid in bed. And, I didn't do any walking. I didn't do any kind of strength training. I was so depressed, and I was more and more convincing myself that I'm becoming a lotta. And so, at this point, I'm like, I have to eat something. And so it was about 2 o'clock, and I was like, I gotta eat. So I ate a hamburger patty, which by all rights was not enough food, but I didn't want to eat. My blood sugar was over 100 already. I don't want to eat. Not a healthy way of thinking. But I eat it, and I checked my blood sugar an hour and 15 minutes after, and it gave me an 8-point rise, which was expected. At least that rise was explained, right? And then I checked my blood sugar again at 7 o'clock that night, and it came down 1 point. Only 1 point after like 5 hours. Which means, either I'm not producing enough insulin or my body's become insanely resistant to insulin again all of a sudden. And so at this point, I go and I make me I order a lab through On Your Own Labs, the C-peptide. I don't want to wait to schedule a doctor's appointment, and because if it is the LADA thing, I don't want to wait till my blood sugar gets way crazy out of control. I want to know now. So I do a blood work for the C-peptide. I can't even get in for the appointment until this Monday, which is why it took me so long to get my blood work back. And so I'm doing that. And guys, in my mind, I'm convinced I'm turning LADA because I haven't, what have I ate? In this entire time, this year and a half, guys, I have not once strayed from keto carnivore. I've not ate anything that's standard American diets. Okay. The cheat days that I have would be on carnivore when I have a salad. Okay. That's the extent of it. So if I had went out and had a standard American diet meal, well, okay, I'd do that to myself, So I wasn't thinking that it was anything I ate. Although I was starting to think about what I ate over the weekend and that Monday that was out of the norm, what I usually do. And I did do that. But I was convinced that wasn't what was the issue. And so I'm already looking up insulin pumps and figuring out how much that's going to cost us. So I just knew that's the direction I was heading in. And guys, you're learning now that I'm a bit of a hypochondriac, okay? But and I told you that stuff stays in the back of my mind, and I probably worried too much about things. But anyways, that's where my mindset was. And Thursday morning, I wake up, and I think I make it to like 5 o'clock that morning before I'm burning up again. I wake up and I get up and I check my blood sugar, and guys, it said 81. And I started to get excited. I'm like, okay, now we're talking normal blood sugar for me. But I was like, no, don't get excited. Remember yesterday it was 84, but then it just went up and got crazy again. It's going to do the same thing now. And so eventually I went back and took a nap, got up. I was like, well, let's see what it is now. And it was still 81. And I was like, hey, okay, now we're talking, right? And then noon came and I was like, we take it, and it said 85. Now I had a cup of coffee, and coffee don't really mess with me, but maybe raise a few points. not worried. 85 is still good. And so that night, I didn't check my blood sugar that night because, guys, I had checked my blood sugar so much, the palm of my hand was actually getting sore where I had took it, my blood sugar so much over the past few days, being so worried. So I just skipped it that night. And then the next morning, Saturday morning, it was 77. So I'm like, okay, things are returning back to normal. So I'm actually starting to calm down. I've already paid for the C-peptide test. I'm going to go ahead and have it done because you know what? As I've always said, when you know, you know, you know. The more you know, you know. So it's always good to have the knowledge of where you're at, you know. So I still go in on Monday morning to get my C-peptide done. And that's why this video is coming out later this week instead of Monday's video, because I was waiting on the results. I did get my C-peptide test back on Tuesday. I'm praising God. I'm like, ooh, my pancreas is okay. You know, I'm making the insulin I needed, but now what was going on, guys? Well, what I had done the previous weekend was, and I've always said that, you know, eating a lot of cheese bloats me. So, like that video I did with Chris cooking Nashville's pizza crust, it's made with a lot of cheese. I only eat that every few months. I always show like a 2 pound gain on the scale after I eat that. So it bloats me a little bit, but it's nothing to be concerned about. My blood sugar testing it, even as you saw in the video, didn't really move much. So, but I've never really heavily ate a lot of cheese and not back to back to back. But this weekend I did because I'm okay with eating just hamburger patties and eggs throughout the week. I'm content with that. My husband is not. And I'm not blaming my husband for this, by the way. But, you know, he likes a little more variety. And so that weekend I had saw Nisha Berry's video on protein lasagna. And in that video, she said it was actually Maria Emmerich's recipe. I don't know. It wasn't my recipe. I was just watching her video and got the recipe from that video. And so you make it with, instead of noodles, you make it with a chicken lunch meat. Okay, which wasn't too thrilled about anyways. And in Nisha's video, she used onions and marinara sauce. But I tend to eat with my husband on the weekends with whatever he's eating. So I want to make it a little bit more suitable for me. So I didn't put onions in it, and I didn't use marinara sauce to save on the carbs. I used the Alfredo sauce instead. So then we got ricotta cheese, mozzarella cheese, and then the cheese in the Alfredo sauce. So we've got a very heavy cheese meal going on here. Now I was like, well, just don't weigh yourself, you know, because you're gonna bloat from this. That's all I expected from it. And I had some Saturday. Then we had leftovers Sunday. So that's 2 heavy cheese meals that weekend. Well, I'd also got another recipe from Laura Spath. She did tacos, and her shell was mozzarella cheese. And so I was like, well, I'll go ahead and make that Monday. We'll see if we like this, and I'll put it on the rotation for our weekend meal if Chris likes it. And so I fried the mozzarella in the skillet, and it got that nice brown crust on the outside and the gooey cheesy center on the inside, and made it out of chuck roast and the meat out of chuck roast. And I did use seasonings, the cumin and the chili powder to help make the taco flavor. I'm used to only using salt on my food, so the seasonings may have also played a part. Um, but so there it was. So I had I ate like 3 or 4 of those tacos that day. That's a lot of cheese on that day as well. So that's 3 days of heavy cheese consumption. And guys, I'm thinking I inflamed my body to the point where, you know, my blood sugar was elevated, and I was having a hard time. My body was having a hard time bringing it back down because of the inflammation. Because when we got inflammation in our body, it causes insulin resistance. So I was having a lot of trouble getting it to come back down. Now, I also think that because of all this, my fasting insulin, because I also had that done, is elevated. It's in normal range for lab work, but according to Dr. Berry, it needs to be under a 6.0. Mine is above that. And I think it's because of what my body was going through. My pancreas was pumping out a lot of insulin trying to bring it down, but it couldn't because of the inflammation. So, guys, the lesson for me is this: I cannot let myself have a heavy cheese day multiple days in a row. I'm okay with that occasional, pizza every few months. The carnivore pizza, not standard American diet pizza. Anyways, but I will never again eating multiple days of heavy cheese. My body cannot tolerate it at all. And guys, this reaffirms what I always say: always check your blood sugar. Keep it on. Guys, if I didn't check my blood sugar at all that week, I wouldn't have even known anything was going on, and just how bad cheese really is for my body. You don't know this. It could be a good food for our way of lifestyle, for our keto or carnivore lifestyle, whichever one you're doing. Cheese is okay for carnivore for some people. It's not for me. And that's how you're going to know. So let that be just another reaffirmation for you that, check your blood sugar. Even if you're not diabetic, it's going to tell you. It's going to tell you the truth, guys. Well, thank you for listening to me. I'm so glad that otherwise I am okay. I'm okay with that, the elevated insulin and C-peptide. I know that I can just correct this and I'm going to be okay. All right. Well, that's what's been going on with me as far as that goes. Everything's seems to be well, though. My friends, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.